For many days, months, in fact, there have been fears being expressed that Israel would consider this an opportunity, given that its genocide in Gaza is ongoing and it has American support. Since Donald Trump came to power, and especially after the damage done to Iranian defenses last October, it has been said that Israel could launch a major attack on Iran at any moment. Such an attack would have one clear objective for both Israel and the US: to halt Iran's nuclear capability. The goal would be to prevent Iran from enriching uranium beyond 60% and to push back its nuclear development by decades, possibly even a century. Well, that attack has now happened. Israel launched an airstrike last night involving Dassault fighter jets and air-to-surface missiles. The attack came from over Iraq, clearly violating Iraqi airspace. However, it is still unclear whether this attack happened inside Iran or just outside its borders. But what is confirmed is this: Dassault fighter jets were involved, and 100 targets within Iran were hit. According to Israel, they fired between 300 and 400 missiles into Iranian territory. If you look at the map, most of these strikes were concentrated in and around Tehran. As you know, Natanz, one of Iran's major nuclear facilities, is just 300 kilometers from Tehran, not far at all. Within Tehran itself, there has been massive loss of life. Additional strikes occurred near the Turkish border in Tabriz, and one further south in Kermanshah. This was a significant military operation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered an 11 se 13-minute speech in English, broadcast on Israeli channels and seemingly aimed at the American public and media. He announced that this was just the beginning, the first wave, of what would be a prolonged military campaign. From his speech, it's evident that Israel plans to sustain this operation. However, as I've said before on my own views and various news channels, Israel alone does not have the capability to carry out such a sustained campaign that would completely eliminate Iran's nuclear capability. Now, let's talk about the damage Iran has suffered so far. Massive airstrike exposure. Iran has clearly suffered a huge blow. Over 300 missiles were fired, and according to current reports, Iran failed to shoot down even a single Israeli jet that took part in the attack. Whether the attack was from within Iranian airspace or outside, it showed major failure in Iran's air defense. The assassination of top scientists. Iran lost 6 of its top nuclear scientists in the strike. This likely means they were gathered in one location or targeted at multiple strategic sites. What this clearly shows is that Israel has deep intelligence penetration within Iran, whether it's in the IRGC, government machinery, or military ranks. Iran appears to be heavily compromised. There are people working within Iran on Israel's behalf. There can be no greater proof of this than the continued assassination of Iran's top scientists since the killing of Mohsin Fakhrizadeh, their most senior nuclear scientist. Iran hasn't been able to stop these killings. The country is, frankly, full of spies, or, to put it in harsh terms, traitors. Loss of command leadership. Perhaps the most devastating blow: Iran's chief of command, the deputy chief of IRGC, and the commander of emergency forces were all killed in the Israeli strikes. Iran has confirmed this. This is a huge loss, strategically and emotionally. Each of these leaders played critical roles in Iran's defense and military strategy. All 3 of these incidents: the overwhelming missile attack, the loss of nuclear scientists, and the elimination of key military commanders, are massive setbacks for Iran. All of this was done in Israel's airstrike, which Israel is calling a preemptive strike. You might recall that something similar happened in 1967 during the Six-Day War. Israel launched an attack on its neighboring countries and destroyed their air forces. In response, Israel claimed it was a preemptive strike. Even now, it's saying the same thing. In military logic, preemptive strike has significant importance. It essentially means that if you fear an enemy might attack you, you attack them first. But the problem with this logic is that after World War II, the world rejected it. Preemptive strikes should not happen unless there's overwhelming, indisputable evidence that cannot be denied by anyone. The reason for this is if the world accepts the logic of preemptive strikes, then any powerful person or state could destroy anything or anyone, claiming this was a preemptive strike. The victim, of course, would be gone and unable to defend or explain themselves. The target of the preemptive strike would be completely destroyed, no chance to give their side. Another very dangerous aspect of Israel's recent attack on Iran is, based on available information, it appears no consideration was given to whether the targeted area contained nuclear fuel. This type of material spreads faster than most people realize and would not just harm Iran, but also neighboring countries and the environment. But Israel, in the West, it seems they can do anything under the logic of preemptive strikes. Since WWII, the world has refused to accept this logic. Yet Israel remains the only country that continually carries out preemptive strikes. Now the big question you are seeing online is, how will Iran respond? Iran has issued many bold statements, such as, "We will retaliate with such force that the Zionist state will never forget." Or, "Israel has made the biggest mistake in its history." But first, we need to consider the reality before examining these claims. According to Israeli sources, and confirmed by some Iranian sources, Iran's ability to immediately retaliate has been crippled. Why? Because to launch a swift and significant response, Iran needed its top leadership intact, and those key figures were reportedly killed in the Israeli attacks. This means Iran's response will be delayed, because the remaining leadership will first focus on securing themselves and preparing for a prolonged war. After that, they will attack Israel. They certainly will, because what Israel has done demands a response. At the very least, the Israeli strike signals that the Ayatollah regime is over, politically speaking. The only way the regime can now survive is by giving a strong and powerful response. If they can do that, not only will they regain strength, they may even survive for more years or decades. However, if Iran cannot respond immediately, and as Israel has openly stated, this is just the beginning, we will prolong it for months, then their strategy is clear. They believe Iran won't be able to withstand prolonged retaliation. If Iran responds once, Israel will retaliate again. And again. The calculation is that after those 18 back-and-forth attacks, Iran will no longer have the strength to continue. If this Israeli strategy succeeds, then the public uprising or revolution that America and Israel have been planning against the Ayatollah regime will succeed. Let me be clear, I am not making prediction. I am just saying if the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, are successful in executing this plan, based on their own statements, then the Ayatollah regime will not survive. That said, Iran now has only one real option: launch a massive and powerful response immediately. If they do so, if they use maximum force and seriously damage Israel, then we can say Netanyahu's government may collapse, and for a long time, Israel may not be able to attack any other country alone again. They would then require US support, especially in future conflicts. Iran, of course, will use long-range missiles. In this first Israeli wave, reports indicate that Israel destroyed some of Iran's mobile missile launchers and launching sites. But as you know, not all launch sites can be destroyed. Modern missile systems are mobile, not fixed. That's why not everything can be eliminated. The best proof is Yemen. Saudi Arabia, the US, Israel, even the UK, bombarded Yemen for years, but the Houthis are still firing missiles today. So we can say that Iran's missile capability, especially its long-range missile capability to attack Israel, is still largely intact. Israel might have hit some of it, but not enough to neutralize it. In this first wave, Iran launched hundreds of drones toward Israel, according to Israeli claims. Israel is intercepting them, but clearly, this is part of Iran's strategy to overwhelm Israel's defenses with a first response. What will come next? Likely major missile strike. What kind of missiles? Ballistic missiles, of course. And possibly even hypersonic missiles. Iran has claimed for a long time that it possesses them. If they fire them, we'll finally see how accurate and powerful they really are. Can they hit targets as precisely as Israel did? That remains to be seen. Another question, Will Iran attack American military sites in Arab countries? My analysis is, no, not yet. The US State Department and White House have clearly stated that the US was not involved in Israel's attack on Iran. Kinetically, the US says it played no part, no refueling, no aircraft support. But, of course, intelligence support from the US is involved. And the US is standing with Israel for its defense. When a country tells another, "We'll protect you," it's essentially granting that country unlimited offense rights. So the US, by saying, "We are here for your defense," is basically saying, "Go ahead and keep attacking, we've got your back." Still, for now, Iran will not strike US targets. They'll save that for when the Ayatollah regime has no chance left, when it's on the brink of collapse. That's when they launch a final, desperate attack to do as much damage to their enemies as possible. At this moment, Iran wants to isolate Israel from its Western allies and show the world that Israel, not the entire West, is its enemy. Just today, British officials stated that if Iran attacks Israel, the UK will not join the defense. That's something Iran may try to use wisely to build distance between Israel and the rest of the West. I've said many times that Iran's past policy was unwise. It didn't act like a wise power. If it wanted to develop atomic weapons or military capabilities, it should have done so quietly, not while shouting slogans like "Death to America" or "Death to Israel." When a country openly threatens powerful nations, it only creates more enemies. Take Pakistan, for example. It developed nuclear weapons quietly, without declaring war against the world. And it succeeded, even during the Afghan war. Iran, on the other hand, is developing weapons while openly threatening south of the world's most powerful nations. That's not wise. When you publicly make such huge claims, your enemies stop evaluating you based on your actual capability. Instead, they judge you based on your threats. That makes it easier for them to act against you. Today, look how easy it is for Israel and America to build case. Just a few days ago, Ayatollah Khamenei was sitting in front of people chanting "Death to Israel" and "Death to America." This, in my opinion, is unwise. Iran's allies, Pakistan, China, Russia, etc., are protesting the violation of Iran's sovereignty, but the US and the West haven't condemned Israel's attack. They're just saying it should not escalate. From the US Senate, lawmakers are praying for Israel and pledging to defend it, as if Israel was attacked, not the one who attacked. Donald Trump even stated Iran should return to nuclear talks, as if nothing happened. That's the same playbook America uses with Palestinians in Gaza, bombings and killings on one side, dialogue offers on the other. And now the US is using that same Gaza playbook on Iran. When the US permits an offensive, what it's actually saying to Israel is, "We may not join you in attacking first, but if anyone attacks you, we will stand fully by your side for defense." In reality, this means, we also support your unlimited offense. Despite this, for now, Iran is not likely to attack any American target directly. Iran will only strike when it has no choice left, when Ayatollah's regime is on the brink of collapse and survival is impossible. That attack would be its final blow, intended to inflict damage on its enemy even in death. Currently, after Israel's initial strike, Iran is unlikely to target any American side. Based on my analysis, Iran will not retaliate at this moment. Instead, Iran will try to isolate Israel from its Western allies and create the perception that Israel is trying to drag the West into war with Iran. Just recently, a statement came from Britain's Foreign Office. They said if Iran attacks Israel, the UK will not participate in defense. This is something Iran can use smartly to convince the West that Iran's issue is only with Israel, not with the entire West. I have said in many videos before that, in my view, Iran's past policy was unwise. It was not acting like mature power. If Iran wants to develop nuclear weapons or enhance its military capabilities, it should not posture by constantly chanting slogans like "Death to America," "Death to Israel," or previously, "Death to the House of Saud." A country that constantly announces enmity against several nations will obviously unite those nations against it. For example, Pakistan also developed nuclear capability. No one supported that, but Pakistan did it silently. It didn't provoke or declare open hostility against any nation. During the Afghan war, under a veil of secrecy, Pakistan became nuclear power. Iran, on the other hand, is trying to build these capabilities in a way that can't be considered smart. Chanting slogans against the world's most powerful country, death to America, death to Israel, even if Israel is its regional rival, openly targeting the US only increases its number of enemies. The US, so far, has not attacked Iran in a way that would justify such rhetoric. If a country openly advertises its military plans and exaggerates its threats, then its enemies will respond based not on its actual capabilities, but based on its declarations. That makes Iran an easier target. Look how easy it has become for Israel and the US to build a case to present to the world that just a few days ago, Ayatollah Khamenei released a video in which people sitting in front of him were chanting, "Death to Israel," followed by, "Death to America." In my opinion, this is unwise. Iran's allies, Pakistan, China, Russia, are all opposing and protesting Israel's violation of Iranian sovereignty. Some countries have condemned the attack. However, the US and the West have not condemned Israel in the same way. They've only said that the conflict should not escalate. Specifically, the US response, particularly from senators, has been to fully stand by Israel. They are now promising to protect Israel, praying for Israel, and presenting the situation as if Israel is the victim, not the aggressor. At the same time, Donald Trump has issued a statement urging Iran to return to the nuclear talks so that a deal can be reached. But how ironic is that? This is the same playbook, the same strategy, that people like Steve Bannon and US officials are using in Gaza. On one hand, they talk about peace and negotiations. On the other, they set terms so extreme that they guarantee total defeat for the other side, for example, demanding that all Palestinians vacate Gaza so it can be rebuilt for Israeli control. And if they don't leave, Israel continues bombing. Now the United States has started applying the exact same strategy to Iran, the same Gaza playbook, to try to turn Iran into the next Gaza or Lebanon. Before Iran can even launch its retaliatory strike, it's possible that the US and Israel, acting together, may preemptively target Iran's submarines and other strategic capabilities. That's why it's being repeatedly emphasized that whenever Iran does respond, its counterattack on Israel will showcase its maximum power. And I believe Iran will try to do this within a week. That attack will reveal the truth behind Iran's past claims, whether those claims were genuine or merely rhetoric aimed at rallying support. The final point is, the world is now in free fall. All the major global powers, except China, are either directly or indirectly involved in some form of hot conflict. At any moment, one of these powers could cause serious harm to a weaker state just to achieve some strategic or geopolitical objective. The doctrine of preemptive strike, which has now gained legitimacy due to Israel, essentially means that any country with the capacity for unlimited destruction is now free to act. This is an opportunity that many will try to exploit. This has brought us to an age of jungle law on the global stage, where strength, alliances, and internal unity matter more than international norms. Every country now needs to stand firm with its allies, build internal cohesion, and consolidate its power. These so-called international laws, such as the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was meant to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, have lost relevance. Because today, all the pressure is being put on one country, Iran, to not acquire nuclear capabilities, which is fair in principle, but no one is saying the same about Israel, even though Israel already possesses nuclear weapons. No one questions where it got them. No one knows how well they are secured. No one even asks whether Israel might actually use them someday. And remember, the most spoiled child is usually the one who causes the most harm. It was the US that dropped two atomic bombs, not any rogue state. The fear now, and this is my personal assumption, is that the next use of a nuclear weapon could happen again. Because the more Israel claims it feels insecure and uses that as justification for preemptive strikes, the more it reinforces a dangerous global precedent. Israel constantly claims existential threats, even while it continues to kill children, women, and innocent people, and simultaneously screams the loudest about its own defense. So if such a state already possesses nuclear weapons, the risk is very real that it might use them one day and justify it by saying, "We were facing an existential threat, so we had no choice." In that case, NPT, international agreements, international courts, and the ICC, International Criminal Court, all become meaningless. This is why now is the critical moment for every nation to unite with its allies, build internal cohesion, and consolidate strength. This is the beginning of a new world, a transition period that will continue until a new world order is established, or the current one, which sounds good on paper, is revived and made strong through real global cooperation. If that cooperation does not happen, then yes, we are in free fall. Anything can happen now. Massive losses. Even geographical.